Workers' Rights Board, established by Long Island Jobs with Justice, to enhance the rights of all workers, to provide a moral voice on issues of economic justice, and offering a community-based forum where workplace grievances can be heard. And we're here today to investigate the negotiating strategies of the Research Foundation. The Research Foundation is the employer of 740 research assistants at Stony Brook University. And we'll hear from the research assistants themselves, which are the three folks over here on this table. And we also have invited the Research Foundation to participate, but they have refused. I wanted to just give a brief background for 1 minute about why we're in this room and why we're not in the other room, and I think it's particularly relevant regarding the sort of harassment that some people affiliated with the union have faced, and the repression that Stony Brook administration has administered on the students. We went through all of the proper measures to get a room. Yesterday we were informed in the early afternoon that our room request was denied after we already had evidence that we had a room. Regardless of the intentions of the Research Foundation to stop our event, in coordination with Stony Brook administration, we're still here, and we've created a public setting because the workers have stories that need to be heard, and our distinguished panelists need to make a decision regarding the practices of the Research Foundation.
What we're going to do is we're going to have a number of witnesses. We're going to give testimony. We want to see what you're going through and ask questions about it. So the first person that we have is Cintron.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce what kind of work research assistants do, who we are, what we're fighting for, and then after me, Zosha's going to speak a bit about the Research Foundation's anti-union and union busting efforts, and then Westry is going to talk about how the Research Foundation wastes research money on non-research things instead of giving us what we want and what we need. We work on solving problems in fundamental sciences, and we work on curing diseases. We invent technologies. These are things that grow the economy and that help hopefully the global as well as the local community. We're the ones who spend the long nights and the early mornings in the lab, making sure that the experiments are running and making sure that the research continues. So many of us here we're at an early point in our careers and our lives. We're people who've come here committed to furthering scientific progress, and we've decided to devote ourselves over these years and into the future to this goal. But we're also workers. We do work, and we have to pay the bills. Many of us are getting married and starting families and helping to support the people who helped to get us here.
During our organizing drive, we were holding different meetings to be able to reach out to more RAs. One of the meetings that we wanted to hold, one of our leaders, she was not allowed to enter a room in which she was hoping to hold this meeting. In fact, the police came to deny her access to this room. And I think that university should be a place where people are able to express their thoughts, and they should feel free to express their thoughts. And I was very disappointed to find out that we were denied this freedom.
On June 9th, 2005, New York State's Office of the Comptroller issued a press release after an investigation of the Research Foundation. That investigation lasted about 2.5 years. The press release issued by the Comptroller's Office concluded, and I quote, "The SUNY Research Foundation has made millions in questionable purchases and payments that, in some cases, would not be acceptable under the rules that govern the state university system. This is highly inappropriate and is unfair to the students and faculty on all SUNY campuses and indeed to all New Yorkers." So there was housing allowances given to university presidents who already got free housing, and you want to housing allowances of like $130,000. It's sort of ridiculous thing.
None of us came to Stony Brook to be RAs to get rich, but we do need to get by. And this is I'm sure as everybody here knows, this is a pretty expensive part of the world. We need to be able to pay our rent without worrying about whether that means we have to go into debt for groceries. And we can't live in Stony Brook here in this part of the world on $16,000 in mediocre benefits.
So since 2004, the Research Foundation has paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to the law firm Bond, Schoenig and King to challenge research assistants' right to organize. So they challenged our certification for the National Labor Relations Board. They continue to spend money, only now with the same firm, only now it's in negotiations.
You know, it's difficult for us to do research when having a root canal eats up more than half of your annual salary.
In 2008, the Federal Bureau of Investigation discovered that Susan Bruno, daughter of disgraced New York State Senator Joseph Bruno, had held a no-show job at the Research Foundation since 2003 as an assistant to President John Obama.
It's difficult to make discoveries for a young parent who has to worry about affording childcare.
Right now, we're already over a year long negotiations. It's been too long. We feel that generally at the table, it is their agenda to slow it down, to mislead us, to confuse us.
It's basically paycheck to paycheck for everyone here. We all really do struggle just to make ends meet.
In 2009, an inquiry by the United States Department of Justice, originally prompted by allegations that the Research Foundation had levied exorbitant computing fees from federal grant funds, expanded. It is alleged that the Research Foundation manipulated Medicaid enrollment and compliance data to defraud the federal government of billions of dollars in matching Medicaid funds. Several Research Foundation employees have been notified that they are targets of the federal probe. This investigation is ongoing.
It's difficult, to write your thesis when your advisor cuts off your funding when they realize that, you're too far in to do anything about it.
So they were telling us this whole time that the Research Foundation doesn't have the money to give us an raise. We know from the financial statements of the Research Foundation that they have a pool of money which they call a working capital, and it's about $36 million. It's a big chunk of money in my mind. And we also know that some of the monies that Research Foundation is holding, they are not spending on research.
February 2010, an investigation into misconduct by the Binghamton University basketball team was billed to the Research Foundation at a total cost of $900,000. Approximately $500,000 was paid out of the Research Foundation's general pool of indirect cost funds.
The Research Foundation sent an email, which they later disavowed and said, oh, that was a mistake, we shouldn't have sent it, blah, 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 that said you can't give any raises. You can't give, where some people will get a raise every year or, on passing, let's say a milestone in the research progress, you get a raise. They said, no, you can't give these raises now because now there's a union, and so you can't have any raises, which is completely false. And that we think that that's certainly unlawful, that the normal existing conditions where you get these scheduled raises or you get these milestone raises, that was the prior existing conditions. I think what they really wanted to do was discredit us in the eyes of the faculty and our own membership.
And what is really horrible is the fact that a lot of people were really counting on those really minimal increases in their monies, and in particular there's one man, he has a family, he's working like crazy, he was supposed to get a raise, he has like 2 little children, and he was denied that raise.
April 2010, quite recently, the Research Foundation has announced plans to promote and hire numerous high-level administrative employees. Employee salaries at the Research Foundation are paid for out of indirect cost funds acquired largely through federal grants.
We embarked on this course of study knowing that it wasn't going to be easy, and we're not asking now to be spoiled. We do ask for livable wages to allow us to work as hard as we can in our research.
The Research Foundation is not recognizing us as a vital element of the research endeavor here, and we really work hard. And we make so little money, and we feel that we are being taken advantage of.
Average compensation for Stony Brook University research assistants is lower than compensation received by research assistants at comparable universities. We do not believe this to be the result of any grand conspiracy by principal investigators at Stony Brook. Instead, we suspect that the flow of grant funds within the SUNY system is leaving researchers bereft of funding enjoyed by their counterparts at other universities that would otherwise be allocated to the compensation of research assistants.